Hi, I'm Teddy Alexandro Evans, and you're watching Out at the Centre. Last month, the Centre celebrated its final appearance on MTV's Real World Brooklyn with a party. Housemates Bea, JD, and Scott stopped by to talk to fans and tell us why they enjoyed volunteering at the Centre. We'll see more of Scott later this year when he rides with Breaking the Cycle. If you want to become a member, like Scott, or volunteer at the Centre, go to gaycentre.org/support.
So tell me about your involvement with the Gay Center in New York.
Okay, well, I had a couple of roommates who were involved as volunteers, on a daily basis. So I got involved through them, and we did Breaking the Cycle. I was involved with the Gender Identity Project. I mean, I was here and seeing my roommates and how this is such a huge part of their life has touched me more than I think I can put into words. So I'm so glad to be able to still be involved by living in New York and being able to do events like these.
And promote the vote, along with many volunteers. I helped register 1,000 people for the general election, so that was a big event because we were out in the streets and doing a lot of bar crawls and getting people registered to vote. So it was a lot of fun.
Did you see any of the roommates being impacted by the work on Breaking the Cycle?
Totally. I mean, I think they all realize that the AIDS epidemic is still on the rise, and it doesn't just affect the LGBT community. And it was great to have my roommates, my straight roommates, become straight allies in the same fight that we're all in. So it was definitely a pivotal moment in my experience.
Well, my involvement began with Breaking the Cycle while we're on the show, and then since then I've decided to get involved with Breaking the Cycle again. I'm going to be one of the riders this year, 300 miles from Boston to New York, so it's going to be a very fun trip. And I've been doing other things to get involved, such as tonight, other fundraisers, help raise money for this wonderful place. That's basically what I've been doing now. As things come up in the future, I hope to do more.
Tonight, Caitlin is having her launch party for the website that she has been working on with the Gender Identity Project through the Center.
I want to see everything.
Okay, there's a browsing station right over here, actually.
Today has been an eventful day for me.
You have me an emotional ask right now. I'm so proud of you, Kate. You have no idea.
Being transgendered, had
Ray Carinanti has been involved with the Gender Identity Project for over 10 years. Before leaving the Centre, Ray shared his thoughts about working with the GIP. We wish him well as he moves on to new opportunities. You can see more profiles, a calendar of events and programs at the GIP website. Go to genderidentityproject.org.
I became the GIP's first graduate intern in my social work program. So my field placement was at the Gender Identity Project back in 1998. At the time, I was a female identified person, but I was questioning whether that felt comfortable. I actually transitioned primarily during that year. Only when you start going, I think, through transition do you realize what an ongoing process it is. I had to change pronouns and my name and lots of different things, and the Center in general was a really great place to be able to do that. And being at the Gender Identity Project, I was around people who were able to be emotionally supportive, logistically supportive to my process. Because of where I was at in my career, I was ready to move into a social service position, into a field placement position that would allow me to grow professionally and also might be accepting. We actually, in terms of who we touch, we reach out to more than just transgender individuals. So we incorporate families, partners, and other loved ones and allies into the community of the Gender Identity Project. We now have clinical social workers who are involved with us. We have psychologists. We have a tremendous group of professionals that are dedicated to seeing this program stay and grow. But what's important to us is staying with our roots of saying, you can come to the GIP, you can receive services here, and then over time, with growth, you can also become a service provider here. That's the kind of project it is. It really sort of encourages and allows community members to stay involved in whatever capacity they can to be a part of the community and also give back to the community at the same time.
Spring is here, and that means get ready for this year's AIDS Walk. Please sign up to walk with the Centre's team and then join us on May 17th in Central Park. If you can't be there, please donate at the link to support the important HIV/AIDS services provided by the Centre.
AIDS Walk I've been doing probably 6 or 7 years now.
Does it get any easier?
Easier? No. Bigger? Yes. Yeah, there's always more and more people. The more you look around, it's more and more crowded.
Well, last year was the first time, so it was like I was just like totally hyped for it. And now this time it's a little more cerebral, and it's like just focusing on too, like, you know, those people that I'm like marching on behalf, you know, those friends of mine that have died and those friends of mine that are living with HIV. So it's like it's a little more internal, it's more personal this year.
We are ready to walk. We're in it to win it. And checking out those Lehman Brothers boys. They're kind of hot.
So we're here today to walk in support of...
Take two.
Know that much.
Writer and downtown performance artist Mike Albo stopped by the Centre to give us a taste of edgy New York humor. In these highlights, he channels Gwyneth Paltrow and The Underminer. Check out the Centre's blog for a longer and edgier version of Albo's performance.
Guys, thanks so much for coming. I'm so happy to be in the Gay and Lesbian Center where I can be completely faggy. They're doing sex clogging upstairs. I'm also happy to be here because I get to read really gay stuff, like gay angry stuff, and be gangry.
Hi, I'm Gwyneth Paltrow. I've been blessed with such a beautiful, magical, wonderful, weird, white life. I put together this website of useful tips based on my experience, told through me, and the history of me. Just log on and I will impart to you wisdom. For example, when I'm thirsty, I drink water. If I want to lose weight, I have my organic chef make pea and avocado soup. Naps are a wonderful way to rest. See, these tips are very useful. At first, I was just writing an email to my friends, but like everything else in my white, weird, wonderful, blessed life, it became a multi-million-dollar business.
Excuse me, could you direct me to Sackett Street? My livery cab just dropped me off in the middle of... Oh, hi! I'm so sorry I didn't recognize you with your hair in your face and your sweatpants. How are you? You're having a yard sale. Cool beans. Well, I haven't been here for so long. My lover partner and I are just in a worldwide W Hotel penthouse holding pattern while our 4 renovations are being completed. Word of advice, never try to install Wi-Fi in your infinity pool while you're at Sundance Lab working on your script for Drew Barrymore's production company. So here we are, just in time, for just a tiny little bit of time. I tell you, after we raised $3 million to produce my film, we are just going to go to Patagonia and just ride out the recession. Just ride it out. Just ride out the recession. Anyway, what are you doing now? Are you still catering on the weekends and living with your ex-boyfriend? Yeah, it's the new iPhone. Actually, it's the new iPhone. Well, among my crazy, stupid careers as an actor, journalist, shaman, and amateur real estate corporate executive, I'm also a design subject for Apple. They just give me new things to try out because I'm sort of an early adapter. So they gave me this new Apple Omni Mac Pro with an 8 yottabyte core standard. Let me tell you, in about 5 years, you are going to love this thing. So how are you? With this depression. Of course, I mean the depression that we're having globally, but I also mean your depression. But you know what you really should do is read The Secret. You need to read The Secret. You, of all people I know, should definitely read The Secret. Wait, what's your address? Okay, hold on one second. There, I just asked the universe to give you a copy. It'll appear in about 45 business days. So read The Secret, stop being so sad, okay? Look at the yard sale. No, nothing else. That's it.
Author, teacher, and spiritual coach Christian de la Huerta says the goddess is back. He spoke to Outside the Center's Rick Baruta about how the empowerment of women and the balancing of feminine and masculine in all of us may be the key to spiritual renewal for the LGBT community.
Christian, in your book, Coming Out Spiritually, you wrote a little bit about gay archetypes. How can archetypes be useful to LGBTs today?
What's interesting about archetypes is that there are universal energies that we can tap into. That's a real simple or maybe simplistic way to look at them. The reason that these particular archetypes, which are all spiritual roles that we have played throughout history, people that we today call gay or queer or LGBT, is that it's really ironic that so many of us struggle with the issue of spirituality. No wonder, given the fact that we confuse it with religion, and given the treatment that we have received and continue to receive at the hands of most religions. But what is ironic and sad and tragic about that is that before the patriarchal times, back when the divine feminine, where women were honored, people that we today call gay or whatever, were not only spiritually inclined, but were actually honored for the roles of spiritual service and leadership that we provided in many, many different contexts all over the world. Part of the reason that we need to reclaim these roles is that as we reclaim them, and of course we've always played them, but too often from a place of fear and a place of hiding and a place of repression. And what I feel the times are calling out for us to do is for us to step into them in full pride, and I don't mean that pride that we talk about in June every year. I'm talking about a capital P pride that is so humble, that is so profoundly humble, that has such a sense of gratitude and responsibility about these gifts and these jobs that we have been called to. In many cultures, we were thought to contain the essence of both male and female, masculine and feminine, and because of that, we were considered to be great mediators between the genders. So in Native American tribes, for example, and many of them, we were referred to as Berdache or two-spirited folk, is a more recent term, people who cross gender boundaries, who in terms of functions within the tribe, sometimes the dress was also gender bending or crossing traditional boundaries. And when there was strife between a couple, when there was strife between the men and the women in the village or in the tribe, we were the ones that they went to for resolution. It was also important if a couple was going to get married, quote unquote, in a Native American context, that they got the blessing of this individual. So in many traditions, the belief system is that as we become more spiritually evolved, that we begin to exhibit both the masculine and feminine qualities of the divine. So along those lines, it's in Taoism, for example, the whole it's very important to balance the masculine and the feminine.
The yin and the yang.
The yin and the yang,
right.
Exactly. And even in mystical Christianity, in the Gnostic Gospels, the Nag Hammadi ones that were found in the 40s, in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus is said to have said that not until you marry within yourself the masculine and the feminine will you find the kingdom of God. And the kingdom of God, of course, not being some mythical place that we go to after we die, but a state of mind, a state of being, a state of consciousness, to which he never claimed exclusivity, by the way. Yeah.
So moving from there to a culture today where masculinity is so dominant and suppresses the feminine and the sacred feminine, how can we embrace that sacred feminine?
Yeah, I'm writing a book called The Soul of Power, which is really for everybody, but I want to target it particularly for women because I believe that the single most important thing that needs to happen in our world is the empowerment of women. And that to that we can connect all these other issues that we're facing. And it is about balancing the masculine and the feminine within each one of us, regardless of external physical characteristics. So it's about stepping into power in a way that's not about hierarchy. That doesn't need me to put anybody down in order to prop myself up. That it's power that is not about manipulation or control or abuse of force. Power that is not dependent on externals, such as fame or money or political status or religious role.
Linda Villarosa, author of Passing for Black, and Fiona Zeddy, author of Hungry for It, stopped by the Center to tell us what motivates their writing in these books and to give advice to up-and-coming Black lesbian writers.
Thank you all so much for coming. I'm really happy to see such a big crowd. I'm going to introduce my friend Fiona. We met a few years ago over the phone when I was writing an article on Black lesbian authors. There are a few of us, and she was a really wonderful interview. I was interviewing you for your book, Bliss. So she's written a new book called Hungry for It, and we re-met again in person when we were both in LA for the Lambda Literary Awards. She was nominated in the erotica category. How does your work get classified as erotica as opposed to just a sexy novel?
Well, if I'd read chapter 11, you would
Okay. Is it because it's more hardcore?
I think it's the use of certain words. There are no euphemisms in my work. There's no cave and channel and love tunnel, none of that stuff. I use the P's and the C's. I use those. Like Linda, I borrow all the time from my life. Certain things are much more interesting in the book than they ever will be in life. Like, as an erotic writer too, I experiment somewhat in my own personal life, but I also like to talk to people about their sex lives and, what do they do, what do they like, what they never in their lives do. So it's a mixture of both. I make up a lot, I imagine a lot. Some of these things I think really are physically impossible.
I am always writing, for the New York Times, for Essence magazine, and certainly writing for Essence, my voice was a little closer. That voice was closer to my own, but it still wasn't me. That's what's fun about fiction, is you can borrow from your own autobiography, but you can change it, you can fix something that you didn't like. For me, I made myself, if this is me, this person is much wilder than me, much more messy than my life ever was. But, she did have some of the same experiences that I did. The title of my book is Passing for Black, and it has to do with for me, Black identity. A lot, of my life has been thinking this through, is where do I fit? Where do we fit? How do we take all the parts of our lives and make ourselves into whole people? Put that in the context of what is essentially a love story.
As a writer, you write, and then you hope someone buys your book. What John does, and it's maybe the same with your book too, on the back of our books, I'll say my book, on the back of my book, there's no mention of this being a lesbian story. He wants it to be a book with a cute cover that's going to attract the reading and buying African-American woman. And when she opens the book and gets to page 14, then she'll be surprised. Then she'll be surprised.
I think you just have to be really creative, often aggressive, and for us, we're probably better at it than the average fiction writer. We're both more extroverted. It's like, bam, as soon as you come out, you got to be really ready to start selling that book. You need to tell what it's about. You need to get people to read it. And it's a wonderful time because there's a lot more opportunity to have your book published by different, like our publisher, like a mainstream publisher, to self-publishing. Somebody wrote me a note when I was reading an article about you. They said, you need to go to sistersontheshelf.com. They do reviews, they do profiles, they do, articles about...
It's very comprehensive. It's really, really
good. Artist Lyle Ashton Harris visited the Center on the publication of the retrospective monograph, Blow Up, to talk about his work with fellow artist Jim Hodges.
Hi, my name is Lyle Ashton Harris. I am here at the Gay and Lesbian Center. We had an evening celebrating the publication of my new book called Blow Up. The book was published by Gregory Arnold and Company, We had a great evening. The artist Jim Hodges and myself had an opportunity to talk.
When you did these series, how many days did you work on each of them? Each character?
The characters were done in a period of 3 days in terms of the actual execution, but I might have been listening to one track for, not one album, but one track. And then at the American Academy, the director finally happened, because I had, one song for 12 hours on repeat.
These to me very much are about being in my space. There's no frame any longer. There's a wildness to them. There's an immediacy to them. That the stillness of the photograph, though it's representing a kind of wild immediacy, always is fixed. And so how has that breakthrough of timing, if you will, shifted and blown out into more of your work?
I mean, I'm very much interested in, I've been very interested for a long time in the formative gestures of people on the street, homeless people, and just the level of performance that we're constantly engaging, in people in terms of for the exchange of money. But I'm very much interested in character studies that we encounter, in the everyday. And part of it was modeled on that. I think we all are performing. We do it every day, whether we or not. We are all involved in a certain level of drag, to a certain degree, whether it's a drag as a policeman or a teacher, whatever.
As young, gay, developing artists, I think we are breaking through barriers constantly in our development, social barriers for how we perceive and present ourselves in our world, and then the self that is the artist's voice within.
I think it's we don't really talk enough about the kind of trauma. I think we talk about it in kind of the drugs we take, or the alcohol, or the abuse, or whatever, and the clothing we can buy, whatever. But in terms of when stripping all that bare, when you get to the kernel of the kind of violence that you might actually experience as being somehow sexually different in a culture which is about compulsory heterosexuality. I mean, clearly that has shifted. I did have a young friend of my family. When I told my brother and I were gay, he said, "Yes, but you make it sound like a disease." And it's true, things have shifted even in 20 years, but I am 43 and I'm soon to be 44, and despite the kind of success or the kind of, let's say, abundance of friendship and love of my family, of friends, there is still a certain sense of to having to negotiate, if you will, the street or social space.
I could listen to Lyle talk for hours, which I usually do, but he's a wonderful, incredible artist, and it was a real pleasure to be here and actually to hear some stories. And Lyle's always honest and straightforward. I think he gives people much more than they would expect from somebody sitting on stage, and that's why it was such a pleasure for me to be here.
For a lot of us, kicking the smoking habit is not easy. In this next video, Mercedes Maybe struggles with kicking the nicotine habit. If you want help to give up smoking, come to the center where our LGBT smoke-free program can give you the support you need to kick the habit once and for all.
But this is bad for you guys. This thing costs $8, don't it?
I
don't know what to say. Look at me. You're not gonna smoke. Away from me. Get away.
Come on, please.
No, get away from me. I don't want you.
Girl, you don't know how many times I tried to quit smoking? More times than you could ever know. I'm a survivor. I've been up and downtown with this HIV thing, and I've been in the hospital 4 times. Sometimes I never thought that I could make it. But girl, I'm still here. I know. It's getting time for me to quit again. My boyfriend can't stand it. He's negative, and he'll have a fit if he sees me light up. What are you doing, Mercedes? You can't afford to be doing that to yourself. I know he's right. I'm just not sure how to do it. I've tried it on my own, and I don't want to fail again, so I'm thinking about a patch. A girl gotta do what a girl gotta do.
And that's all for this edition of Act at the Center. As the credits roll, we will see a dance performance by the members of the House of Ninja, along with the spoken word art of Emmanuel Xavier that was taped at the Jewish Community Center on the Upper West Side. Thanks for watching. I'm Teddy Alexandro Evans. Goodbye.
Them queen face, your structure so fast and gorgeous. Which queen face? Cameras ready, prepare to flash. Woman's face, cover girl, the next top model. Drag face, tell me darling.
There are gods amongst us in these ghettos, so brown, so fierce, so black, so beautiful, that if you spend too much time caught up in yourself, you just might miss him that is goddess, she that is God, they that are legends, working the runway as if walking on butter, reaching the stage, that promised land where peace is not ridiculed, and the only war worth fighting for is protecting your children from the terrorist acts of the mainstream America.
I'm walking, I'm searching, so tell me how.
There are gods amongst us in these ghettos, so black, so fierce, so black, so beautiful, so brown, so fierce, so brown, so beautiful. Watch them carefully and say your prayers as they enter the ballroom. Angel wing feathers decorating skin recrafted over silicone and martyred colors. See the gods dream, see the gods give, see the gods live.
Sexy, you're sexy, sexy, you're sexy, 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 you're sexy, sexy, you're sexy, sexy, you're sexy, 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 you're sexy.
There are gods amongst us in these ghettos, so black, so brown, so fierce, so beautiful. Look up towards the heavens and pray, and look at yourselves in the mirror and say, stars are not only found out in the sky, but in ourselves.
This gets a lot harder as you get older, trust.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am the founder of the house, Benny Ninja. You wanna see how it goes? Y'all wanna see how it goes? Pump up the beat, DJ.